Hello, so glad you could join me on today. I am happy that you're here, and we're going to jump right on into our session on today. And so, while our sessions are normally outside with our horses, as we agreed during our last session, today I'm going to lead you through some emotional freedom techniques, or EFT. Um, and I'll just kind of recap what that is for you. It's designed to calm down the emotional part of our brain, that limbic system, in times of stress by releasing various chemicals into our body that will counteract the fight or flight response that stress brings on. Okay, so our fight or flight response kicks in when our survival brain, which is the brain stem, is exposed to situations and circumstances where it perceives it's in grave danger. Okay? And so it's an automatic action that takes place without our thinking about it. It just happens. It's the way we're created, the way we're designed. So oftentimes with the pressures that we experience in just our day-to-day living, and particularly now more than ever, with the constant barrage of negative news and sadness and weightiness and heaviness that really is permeating the entire world, it's causing our fight and flight response mechanism to kind of get stuck and stay on fight or flight permanently. And so this creates a whole nother set of circumstances and challenges. For women, one could be that release of cortisol, which kind of forms right around our midriff. And when we're, especially women, losing weight everywhere else and can't seem to get rid of that bulging belly, that's cortisol that's released as a result of the stress in our body kicking into that fight or flight. So what we want to do is we want to calm the brain. We want to calm our bodies. We want to let and position ourselves in a place where we're not under that constancy of stress. Okay? And so that's what EFT is. It can teach us how to calm ourselves down in any situation. And research has shown that the emotional freedom techniques, it works on the neural pathways in our brain. It helps to rewire the old thought patterns and beliefs. And so, given that, it's great for dealing with stress and trauma and anxiety and grief, and while it simultaneously promotes relaxation, creativity, motivation, calm, a confidence and peace within yourself. And that's where we want to be. That's where we want to get to. So this is perfect because you identified in our last session that you've been feeling very emotional, experiencing a lot of anger, uh, feeling guilty, and experiencing a lot of anxiety to the point that uh, you're not sleeping well. So you're suffering from insomnia. And then on top of that, your energy level is really low. And then on top of that, you're starting to gain weight because you've begun to gravitate to comfort foods as as a way to relieve stress. And so because we're not as active as we once were, we're not able to get out, we're not able to go to the gym and do many of the activities, even when we would drive to work and take the time to walk from the parking lot to the door. We park kind of far away, or instead of using the elevator, we would use the stairs. So we don't have that during this particular time. So it's creating some actions within ourselves emotionally that cause us to uh, stay in that fight or flight response, of which eating, fidgets, agitation, anxiety, insomnia are all a part of that. So let's talk about how this thing is going to work. Okay, it's not a real difficult or challenging process. It's actually relatively easy. Okay, so how does this work? So you know about acupuncture, where needles are placed on the meridian points or the pressure points, or what we call the energy hotspots in our body, in order to relieve certain elements and restore balance and equilibrium within the body. And so, whereas acupuncture uses needles, tapping uses just the tips or the pads of our fingers to accomplish that. Okay, and as we do this, it helps to relieve symptoms, relieve the negativity, release the stress that that stressful, traumatic experience may have caused to kind of get you into that fight or flight response pattern. Okay, so EFT can be the tapping is divided into 5 steps. Okay, and so if you have more than one issue, which of course you do, today we're going to just focus on one of those issues, one or two of them. And focus in on those. And as a result of focusing in on those and kind of getting some mastery there, then you'll know the process. And then you can tap even while you're at home on some of those other issues. But we want to kind of try to stick to one or two issues at a time and give it a real concentrated effort with it. Okay? So let's go forward. First thing we need to do is identify the issue. And this is going to be the area that you focus on with your tapping, okay? And so you identified anger and anxiety. So those are the two that we're going to work on during this tapping sequence, anger and anxiety. So once you've identified the problem, the next thing to do is to kind of set your benchmark level of intensity. Okay, these are what are called our SUDs. And so we go from on a scale from 0 to 10, 10 being the worst that you could feel, 0 being the best that you can feel. And so when you think about anger, when you think about how much anxiety you are suffering with, you want to give that an intensity level. Are you angry to the point of a level 10, where you're willing to go and cut somebody or hurt yourself, or you're ready to scream, do something drastic? Is your anxiety so bad that you're just constantly nervous, constantly fidgeting all the time? Okay? Or is it, you're thinking about it, things are kind of rough, but it's not quite so bad. So we take the scale, and you'll just look at the example that I've given you, the sheet that I've given you, and it has those different levels from 0 to 10 on it. And I want you to take a moment and choose, you don't have to show it to me, you choose where you are with regard to your anger and with regard to anxiety. Okay? So that's number 2. We're going to test that and see where you are there. And even in doing this, after the tapping sequence is done, once we're finished, then we'll test the intensity again so that you can see how much progress you have or have not made. And if you made the progress, then woo-woo. But if you haven't, then it gives you a gauge of what we need to do to increase or enhance the tapping protocol and continue it. Because one thing is for certain, for most people, it will work. And now with me, it took a lot of time because I'm a head person. So I'm always thinking, it's like, how's that supposed to work? But I guarantee with practice and with a constant intention of it working, and you taking the time to really holistically and honestly and authentically show up, feel the sensations in your body, process what you're feeling, allow yourself to feel what you're feeling without guilt, without shame, without feeling the need to give an excuse. It is what it is. And so in this, there's a safe haven created for you to help navigate through these traumatic experiences and to bring that fight or flight response level back to a state of calm. Okay? So, number three, the setup. So, prior to the tapping, you need to establish a phrase, okay, or something that you're going to say that will help you to focus, okay? And this saying, it's going to do two things. One, it's going to acknowledge the issue, and two, it's going to reiterate that you accept yourself unconditionally, despite the problem and the challenge that you're having, okay? So the phrase that we decided that you would use is, even though I have this anger and anxiety, I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though I have this anger and anxiety, I deeply and completely accept myself. Okay? Even though I'm experiencing low energy and weight gain as a result, I deeply and completely accept myself. Okay? So those are the phrases that we're going to use throughout this tapping session. And so now comes the actual tapping sequence. All right? So the EFT tapping is a methodic tapping using, again, the pads of our fingers against various meridian points. And within our body, there are 12 meridian points, 12 major meridian points, but we're just going to focus on 9 of them during the tapping session. So first is this karate chop, okay? So you're chopping against the sides of your hand, okay? And this deals with and works on the small intestine meridian, all right? Top of the head, this is the governing vessel, okay? Eyebrow, okay, right here at the eyebrow, works on the bladder meridian, right? Side of the eye, deals with the gallbladder meridian. Under the eye, okay, right under the eye, deals with the stomach meridian, taps on that stomach meridian. Under the nose is another governing vessel, okay? And then the chin is a central vessel. Collarbone is where you can feel your collarbone here. You're going to come down an inch and out to the side about an inch. And tapping on the collarbone, you can either do one side or do both sides at the same time. It really doesn't matter. It's whatever your comfort level is. That collarbone activates or taps on the kidney meridian. And then under the arm, and this is going to be, for us women, we know where this is because it's right where our bra strap crosses. And we tap under the arm there. That deals with the spleen meridian, okay? And so as we begin the tapping with the karate chop point, that's where we will start. And while we're tapping on each point, we're going to rehearse our phrase 3 times, okay? Even though I have this anger and anxiety, I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though I have this anger and anxiety, I deeply and completely accept myself, okay? And we'll do that for each tapping space. We'll go down the entirety of the area, the karate chop, eyebrow, the side of the eye, under the nose, under the chin, beginning of the collarbone, and then under the arm, okay? And so we'll do that, tapping each point 7 times. So with the karate chop, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, as we quote our phrase, okay? And then after you've done the underarm point, then you'll finish the sequence with tapping at the top of your head. Okay? And when all of that is said and done, then what we're going to do is we're going to do that test again, our SUD scale from 0 to 10, and we're going to test again the intensity of how you feel about the anger and anxiety that we talked about. Okay? And again, that will show you, that will give you a gauge as to how you've done, where you are. Do you need to spend some more time tapping? Do you need to alter the phrase a little bit to become a bit more specific? Those can be determined after you finish the tapping sequence and you've done the subsequent intensity test at the very end. So I hope this was helpful for you. We're going to go through it a couple of times. I'm going to take us off camera so that you don't feel the pressure of lights, camera, and action on you, and you can have a very natural and fulfilling and positive and profound experience with emotional freedom techniques, EFT, and tapping.